Hello, in this video we're going to learn more about how negations and conditionals interact. We saw in the previous video that we have these two different sentences that are built up in different ways. One is the negation of a conditional, negation parenthesis P arrow Q parenthesis. The other is a conditional whose antecedent is a negation, so parenthesis negation P arrow Q parenthesis. They have different trees. The only way they're different in terms of the left to right written up top is, does the negation come first outside of the parentheses, or does the parenthesis come first and the negation inside of the parentheses? And depending upon which way that happens, the two sentences have different trees and have different main connectives, one being a negation, the other being a conditional, as we can see when we look at these trees. Now, there are actually lots of ways in which negation and negations and conditionals can be combined. So we could have P or Q with parentheses. With no negations, we could have if it's not the case that P, then Q. We could have if P, then it's not the case that Q. And we could have if it's not the case that P, then it's not the case that Q. And then we could put negations on all of those. So we can have if it's not the case that if P, then Q. It's not the case that if not P, then Q. It's not the case that P if P, then not Q, and it's not the case that if not P, then not Q. And all 8 of these sentences say different things. They're obviously different sentences since they have different symbols in them, but they also each say different things. Informally, if we were thinking about informal notation, the ones in the left column, we could drop the the ones in the right column, left column, the ones as you're looking at it on the left column, the first ones, we can drop the parentheses from there, but we can't drop the parentheses from the other ones because they're not external, because there's a negation outside of them. So there are all these different sentences that we can form with negations and conditionals, and so we want to try to understand how they work. And we're going to focus on this pair we've already looked at, negation of if P then Q versus if negation of P then Q. So we're going to start actually by looking at conditionals and negations in English and natural language, and then we'll bring in our symbolic language. So let's imagine we're in the following situation. I'm in a good mood. In fact, I'm in a really good mood that whether or not I have a cookie, I'm going to be happy. And now we're going to ask about some different sentences and ask, are they true given these facts or these supposed facts? Supposing that they're true, would different sentences come out true or false? So first, if I don't have a cookie, I will be happy. Well, yeah, that's true, right? We've said I'll be happy no matter what, and so in particular, I'll be happy even if I don't have a cookie. This is a conditional. The main operator is if. How about if I have a cookie, I will be happy? That's certainly true. I'm going to be happy no matter what, but certainly having a cookie will not interfere with my happiness, so that's true. That, again, is a conditional. The main operator is if. So we have these two conditionals. Both are conditionals. One has a negation in the antecedent, and one doesn't have any negations in it at all. How about this sentence? It is not the case that if I have a cookie, I will be happy. So this says that conditional, if I have a cookie, I will be happy. Is that true? No, it's not. So let's think about whether or not this negation of the conditional is true or false, right? Remember, it's saying there's a certain conditional, if I have a cookie, I will be happy. That conditional is false. Well, this, if I have a cookie, I will be happy, which occurs inside of the it is not the case that, that's the same thing as if I have a cookie, I will be happy, right? And we know that if I have a cookie, I will be happy, that's true. And let's remember how negation works. If we attach negation to something true, then the negation is false. If we attach the negation to something false, then the whole thing is true, right? The negation reverses the truth value of whatever it's attached to. So in this case, the negation is attached to something true, and the negation of something true is itself false, and so this is false, right? It is not true. The following sentence, it is not the case that if I have a cookie, I will be happy. That is false. That is not true. It's a negation of a true conditional, and so it itself is false. And its main operator is, it is not the case that. And so in particular, if we compare the first conditional with the last conditional, we see, depending upon, the first sentence with the last sentence, the first sentence being a conditional with a negation inside, the last sentence being a negation of a conditional, we see, they say different things because one comes out true and one comes out false. It's true that if I don't have a cookie, I will be happy. Yes, I don't need a cookie to be happy, and if I don't have one, I'm going to continue to be happy. But it's false that it's It is not the case that if I have a cookie, I will be happy. If I have a cookie, I will be happy. That's true. And so it's false that it is not the case that if I have a cookie, I will be happy. And so those two things, they say different things. The first one denies the second one denies a certain conditional, that last one. If I have a cookie, I will be happy. It says no, but it's mistaken to say no. We should say yes. We should agree. If I have a cookie, I will be happy. And the negation one is telling us not to agree. So it doesn't say the same thing as the first one. And if we were to symbolize them, we would see that how they would come out. So the middle one would be just if P then Q. So P being I have a cookie and Q being I will be happy. So the top one is a conditional, and it's going to have the negation inside on the antecedent. I don't have a cookie. It's if what? I don't have a cookie, so we put I don't have a cookie in the antecedent on coming before the arrow. And then the last one is negation of if P then Q, because it's there's the conditional if I have a cookie, I will be happy, and the English is saying that's false, so we put the negation outside of the conditional and make the negation attached to the whole conditional. So to summarize this, we've got these two sentences, if not P then Q, and not if P then Q. The first one is if not P then Q, that's a conditional. It says if P is false, then Q is true. It says not P, that's sufficient for Q. The second one is a negation. It's a negation of a conditional. It says it's not the case that if P then Q, or put slightly differently, it says P isn't sufficient for Q. And we can see that those don't say the same thing. First one says not P is sufficient for Q. So if we get to not P, we'll also get Q. What will happen if we get P instead? We don't know. Maybe we'll also get Q. Maybe there are many ways to get Q. We can get Q from not P. We can also get it from P. Right? The first one says not P is sufficient for Q. Fine. And what about P? Is P sufficient for Q or not? We don't know. And so that means that these two sentences say different things. The first one can be true, not P is sufficient for Q, and then maybe P isn't sufficient for Q, or maybe P is sufficient for Q. We don't know, and so they say different things. So those we can see how negation is starting to interact with conditionals, and this can take a little while to absorb, so if you feel like, I don't quite get it, I'm not completely happy with this, that's okay. We're going to be practicing more with negations and conditionals, and as you symbolize them, you will get to really have a strong sense of how these two different sentences work and what they mean, and also doing derivations with them, and I'll be talking about derivations with negations a little bit later. You'll also get a better grip on how these two sentences work if you're not satisfied with how well you understand it right now. So this is an introduction, and with practice, we'll come to feel more comfortable with these sentences and what they mean and how they work.